Hey friends, before we dive into this episode, I wanted to give you a heads up that the first few minutes of the episode with our guest, the sound is a little muffled, but it does get better. And believe me, you're going to want to stick around to hear all the things that we talk about in this episode. But just know it may be a little hard to hear in the beginning, but it clears up and it's an amazing episode. Welcome to the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast, where you will learn simple solutions to win at work without losing at home. Hi, my name is Martine Williams, and I am your host and CEO, your Chief Encouragement Officer. And this podcast is your one-stop shop to creating a burnout-proof life and business by elevating your clarity, confidence, and courage. Friends, it's time to say goodbye to being the yes girl, to procrastinating on your goals and living in overwhelm. And it's time to say hello to creating healthy boundaries, healthy mindsets, and healthy habits so that you can achieve work-life harmony. Your next breakthrough starts here. This is the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast. Let's do this. Hey friends, welcome back to the show. I wanted to let you know about our Turquoise Talk guest today. Her name is Megan Schwan, and she is the CEO and the founder of Sidekick Accounting Services, a national and virtual accounting firm working to change the statistic that 8 out of 10 small businesses fail. That's a really crazy stat. For over a decade, Megan and her team have educated thousands of owners on their businesses' accounting and taxes in order to create sustainable and successful businesses. Don't we all want those? Being in the accounting industry for over 2 decades, Megan has seen and experienced plenty of businesses' red flags and triumphs. And one of the things that she said that I really loved is she said, all money isn't good money. So you're going to have to tune in to hear more about that quote, but I loved that, and I firmly believe in that as well. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Well, hey friends, and welcome back to the podcast. I am your host, Martine Williams, and today we have a Turquoise Talk guest, Megan Schwan. Megan, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Martine, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so excited to have this conversation on finances and entrepreneurship and being a mom and all the things. So tell
All the
us just a little
things.
bit about you and your family, and I'd love to know just kind of the story and the journey about how you got into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so lots there. I'll try not to be too long-winded. But basically, I started my entrepreneur journey when I was in high school, really. So I had a teacher in accounting. I was taking accounting 101, and she just kind of noticed that I was really good at it and just kind of encouraged me to think about making it a career. And then I ended up getting pregnant when I was 16. So I was a teen mom and, had to think about, what I wanted to do for a career. And I think just the combination of the two was like, oh, accounting is a great, career path. There's lots of different options. And so I decided to go to college for that. So I have my bachelor's in accounting. And then long story short, while I was in school, I met my husband at the time. We got married. I had a baby. I was decided not to go back to work full time, so I got a part time job as a bookkeeper at a landscaping company, and that was kind of my introduction into small business. And then my full time job called me back. They wanted me to work part time from home, and so I was basically working the 2 jobs part time from home with my young son. My daughter was in school at that time. And I did that for about 2 years, and then I got laid off of both of the jobs within like a month of each other. And so then I was like,
Wow.
okay, now what?
Yeah, yeah.
And I had my degree. I had started to do taxes on the side for friends and family for a few years. And I think I was just like, well, I was, doing bookkeeping for that landscaping company. I could probably do it for other companies, still work mostly from home. And so I did. I created a company and started networking, and now almost 12 years later now, I have a business that is way beyond what I ever anticipated it. And now there's been a lot of life transitions in the meantime. I'm actually divorced now, single, solo mom. I had 2 more babies during that period of time while I was still married, and then we moved across the country. So there's been a
Wow.
lot of life transitions in the meantime. But my business has been a huge part of being able to provide for my family, also give me, options. We went through some, difficult situations and had to make some important life decisions. And my business was able to give me that flexibility to be there for my kids, still provide and make, some of those hard decisions. And so that's really the passion behind what we do now at Sidekick is to help other business owners, especially the women and minorities that we work with, and help them create successful and sustainable businesses so they have options, whether that's, it's probably not as dramatic as mine all the time, but sometimes it's like being there for, your kids or to homeschool or to build a legacy, whatever
Mhm.
that looks like for you, having a successful and sustainable business makes that possible and makes it a reality. So that's
Yeah.
what we do.
Yeah. So there's a lot to that story, and I just love the openness of that journey. And I'm sure there was, because there was so much change, there was a lot of changes that you talked about in a very short amount of time in that journey. And entrepreneurship in and of itself is lots of moving pieces and parts, right?
Yes.
Without the personal side of it. But I would love to know, like, what were some of the mindset shifts that you had to have, either from a personal standpoint of managing all the change that you were having at that time, or just ones that you find super helpful for you now as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there definitely was a lot of shifts because even just like from a personal standpoint, like you said, as a like at developing as a person, like I was pretty young when I started my company. I was in my early 20s, and so even just in that point, you're like, I don't know, you don't really know a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah.
You
You
think
don't
you
know
do,
what you
but you
don't
don't.
know.
Yeah, exactly. So, but some of the main ones that I would say, one is that you don't have to be perfect. And like I was kind of a perfectionist type A personality, I guess. I'm the oldest child, so like there was a lot of expectations that I put on myself, and just kind of along the journey, that was one thing I really had to learn to embrace was like, I don't have to do things perfectly. Things don't have to be done perfectly in order to like start executing on them. So just kind of that whole mindset shift around perfection, if you will, which
Yeah,
there's no such thing, right?
yeah,
We're always a work in progress, and the best way to be successful is to consistently be a learner and always be improving, right? So that
yeah,
was a big one. Another one was that delegation is really power, like especially when I had my two youngest sons back to back. They're only a year apart. And when I was getting ready to, go on maternity leave, if you will, quote unquote, at
mm,
that time, I knew that I was going to need to bring in some help, within my business. And so learning how to delegate, being able to let go, really that's the only way you can scale as well. So like if you
yeah,
want to grow and you want to scale, you have to learn and you have to be okay with delegating. You
yeah,
cannot keep everything close to you. You got to let things go. And if somebody can do at least 80% as good of a job as you, that's great.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like embracing that was a big one. And then I would have to say like learning to say no was probably another big one. Like
yeah,
saying you don't have to say yes to everything. You don't have to say yes to every client. All money isn't good money, kind of a mindset.
yep.
So
I
just
love that.
learning how to, embrace those things was really important. And then even though I'm an accountant, I always tell people like I'm an accountant for sure, but I didn't know how to run a business either or how to grow a business. Like that's something
Yeah,
that I've
yeah,
had to learn. And that there's a big difference between knowing how to do what you know how to do and running and growing a business. And so a big mindset shift that I had to, kind of walk into was learning how to embrace the data. Like there's power in your numbers, not just like your financial numbers, but all of the numbers of your business, like
yeah.
your retention rate and conversion rates and like all those different things. Learning what those are and then embracing them really helps to empower you as a business owner and helps you to be able to make better decisions, which is ultimately what leads to success and sustainability.
Yeah, yeah. I love all of those. And I have had to personally embrace all of those too in the almost 2 decades as an entrepreneur myself and just as a mom. A lot of
Yeah.
the trials that we go through is that juggle between motherhood and entrepreneurship. And I'm a firm believer that, and I take a holistic approach in my coaching because one impacts the others. The other,
Yeah.
like if you're not feeling motivated in your business or content in your business, or there's things going on in the business, it's 100% spilling over into motherhood and it's spilling over into your
Right.
family side. And same thing if there's some, discontentment in the family side, that's spilling over into your profession and your
Yeah.
work and your entrepreneurship. So thank you for sharing all those mindset shifts. I know we talk about on this podcast a lot about perfection. We talk a lot about saying no
Yeah.
and realizing that, you have to choose your best yeses. There's a lot
Yeah.
of even good things that we can be saying yes to as an
Right.
entrepreneur and as a mom, but are they the best things right now for the season of
Hmm.
life that you're in? Like my kids are, 17 and 20 right now. And when they were babies, I was saying no to lots of other things
Yeah.
because I didn't have the time, right, to
Right.
spend on. I couldn't do all the things
Yeah.
at the same time. We think we wear a cape, right?
Right.
We think we're a woman, but being a superwoman makes you a super worn out woman, and then
Yes.
you're not able to do the business and everything like you want to. So
Absolutely.
you talked about data and numbers, and I know that's part of what you help entrepreneurs and small businesses with. And I do think,
Yeah.
especially for women, it's kind of a scary topic, or we kind of want to put our head in the sand and just like, well, I don't understand it, so I'm just not going to look at it. But one of the mindset shifts I've had to have about that part of my business is it's feedback, and it's not.
Yes.
Honestly, there have been times where I've looked at the numbers and been really encouraged. I think we have this like doom, mindset that I'm going to look at the numbers and it's going to tell me all the ways that I'm falling short, all the ways that,
Yeah.
things aren't working well, when really you probably will see a lot of encouragement on things you are doing well. So, talk a little bit about those numbers and the data, and what do you feel like if someone's listening today and they're an entrepreneur and they really haven't been digging into their numbers like they know they could be doing, where would they
Hmm.
start with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I think a lot of the fear and uncertainty really comes from a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
So, really, the first thing that you need to do is to start doing your bookkeeping, whether you're doing it yourself or you're outsourcing that to somebody else, getting your numbers in order and in a readable, understandable fashion. Is going to really help you have a better understanding of how your numbers relate to your decisions and how your decisions tie back to your numbers,
Hmm.
because they're going to be yours. I think sometimes people go through classes, like I do a lot of educational classes, and I always tell people, like, we're looking at numbers on this screen, but they're like fictional numbers or, not your numbers. But once you start doing your bookkeeping, looking at your reports, what happened, in that past month. You
Hmm.
know what sales you got, what sales you didn't get, what expenses came in, if there was something unexpected. So like looking at it in a quantifiable manner in your reports is gonna, and knowing what the story was behind it is gonna give you a better understanding to what those numbers mean and how they worked. Setting up a budget is another really great way to do that, because then you can look at a budget versus that was like your goals in number format, and then look at what actually happened and kind of compare the two. And you can say, okay, well, this is what I thought was going to happen, but this is what actually happened. And this is the thing I need to adjust to change that or to keep doing whatever's working, so you can start asking those higher level questions. But really, the first step is to get your numbers in order through your bookkeeping, for sure.
And, calling in the support that you need. Like, I'm a firm believer
Hmm.
of, because a lot of the work that I do with my clients is really focusing in on your strengths. And
Yeah.
as a CEO, you need to know your numbers, even if that's
Yes.
not your strength, right? But
Yes.
you can call in support, like someone like you that can come in and help you to not make it so overwhelming. Because I do think that
Yeah.
you know, what we're really avoiding is the emotion around the numbers.
Right.
The coaching, my coach container that I've been in, a mastermind for the last almost year and a half, like we have to report our revenue every single month. And
Yeah.
really interesting because she always has a bonus call on your emotions around the numbers, whether
Hmm.
it's you're celebrating or you're like, wow, that was a down month. It's like it's taken away the fear that I think so
Yeah.
many of us are avoiding the emotion around the number. Whether you
Right.
have a fear of, I'm not worthy of this success, and you had a really good month, right? Or
Yeah.
it didn't go the way you wanted it to go, and you're worried about beating yourself up about it. But I love just it's so simple, right? Just it's so
Right.
simple just to look at the numbers and just start reporting it. Even if you don't want to dive deep into it at first, like you just have to start somewhere. And that first step
Right.
might be just meeting with someone like you who can help you talk through and maybe remove some of those fears.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And we do a lot of that, like education and support with our services,
Hmm.
because I recognize, that most of us don't know anything about numbers or anything about business. So we help support our clients in getting to that level, starting to understand what, key performance indicators or KPIs they need to start tracking and their profit margins and all of that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is important. For sure.
Yeah. I think I saw on your kind of bio that you also are profit first.
Yes.
Is that right?
hmm Yep, we're a certified profit first firm.
Okay. So tell everyone, because I've had a couple people ask me about that, and I've read the book. I love the book. I love everything about
Yeah.
it years ago. But for someone who maybe doesn't know what that means, I think it's a really cool
Yeah.
thing. Like I just think it is a way to look at your numbers in a way that so many entrepreneurs don't pay themselves first.
Right.
Hey friend, let's talk. It's time to book your clarity call. We are going to spend 1 full hour focused on you. A clarity call isn't about pressure. It's about possibilities. It's about you. You having a space to talk through what's on your heart and mind, you walking away with a clear vision and practical next steps, and you feeling confident in what's next and how to get there. You don't need to have it all figured out. That's my job. All you need to do is show up and we'll figure it out together. This is the best hour you can invest in yourself right now. Not in 6 months from now, not next month, right now. And don't just take my word for it. Here's what one of my coaching clients had to say after working together.
I honestly cannot say enough positive things about coaching with Martine. From the very first session, I knew this was something different. The deep dive into who I am and why I operate the way I do per the ProScan results has helped me immensely and allowed me to embrace my unique qualities on various levels. I would 1000% recommend hiring her for whatever level of transformation you're looking for.
That transformation, it starts with one conversation. It's time to stop spinning your wheels and start making real progress. So head right now to martinewilliams.com or in the show notes and grab your private clarity call spot on my calendar before they're gone. And since I personally monitor my inbox, if you don't see a time slot that fits your calendar, just send me an email at martinewilliams.com with 3 times that do work, and I will make it work for you. All right, friend, let's get back to the show.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to say that it helps to bridge the gap between your monthly reports and what happens on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
And just to kind of explain it a little bit more. So Profit First is a cash flow management system and methodology for your business. And so basically the idea is that instead of your money coming into one bank account, one bucket, we create separate buckets to prioritize those different areas. And so the main ones are, profit, taxes, owner's comp, and then operation expenses. You can do more buckets depending on what your plans are, but those are like the core ones. And that really helps to solve the big pain points that most business owners experience. They don't pay themselves, they don't save strategically or reinvest strategically. They don't save for taxes. So then they end up with this big tax bill, which, taxes already is pretty scary for
Yeah.
most people. But planning ahead, and that's the way this system works, is so that instead of just waiting until tax time to pay, what you're doing is you're taking a little bit of your income every month and you're putting it into the tax bucket or you're putting it into the profit bucket. And what it does is it helps to stabilize your income because now you're planning for things throughout the year, including things like seasonality or, high seasons versus low seasons or unexpected things or annual expenses that you only pay once a year. Instead of those things coming out at that time, you're saving a little bit each month or each week towards those things. And it really helps to stabilize your cash flow. It helps you prioritize profit and profitability, which you need to have to be successful and sustainable. Like your business has to support itself. And it really forces that. And then it just kind of makes money more tangible is like the thing I hear most often is like people, will tell me, our clients will tell me, Before I didn't really know what was going on with my numbers. I didn't understand it. But after we put this system in place, even if things don't always go the way they want, they at least know why. And I think that's a really powerful thing to have that understanding, to have that clarity. And that's what Profit First really helps to do when it's implemented in your business. So that's what we help people with. And then we do business coaching or business training alongside that as well with our bookkeeping services. So it's been really great
Yeah.
helping people have more clarity and confidence with their numbers and their decisions and their money.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else from a financial standpoint that we haven't talked about, like any strategies, simple strategies for their finances or budgeting or just any type of simple strategies you can talk about that we haven't kind of talked about already?
I guess the only thing that I would say, sometimes people, read the book and they get a little bit intimidated with all because the different buckets we create
Yeah. Yeah.
are with
That was
bank
me.
accounts.
That was me.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah,
telling my
sometimes.
husband, he was like, we have to open 5 different accounts. He's like, this
Yeah.
is kind of crazy.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it sounds like it's crazy, but once you implement it, it really is powerful. But if you're not quite there yet, or if you're not ready to work with usually working with a professional such as myself can really help with that, and getting over the multiple accounts. But if you're not quite there yet, what I would suggest is to at least open up a tax account and a profit account. So two separate savings accounts that you can start putting money in. It doesn't need to be a lot like profit. I always encourage people start at 1%, and just kind of see the impact on your business, on your bank account, and then up it, go to 2% or go to 5%. Because sometimes I think people are like, oh, I can't save money. But when you only save 1% of your revenue, it's
Yeah.
usually not a very big amount, but it adds up fast. And same thing on the taxes. The recommended percentage is usually about 10 to 15%.
Mhm.
But starting somewhere in there, even if it's not that much and you haven't saved anything for taxes, having something put away for taxes is
Mhm.
going to make a big difference, in how you're viewing money. It's going to help you be more confident for tax season. And it's going to make you feel better because now you're being more proactive with your business instead of reactive. And that's really I think the biggest thing. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, you're just more empowered. Like I know the more I lean
Yes.
into the numbers and
Hmm.
into understanding, like from a curious standpoint versus
Yes.
like I did it wrong or I could have done it better, but just, that's interesting. I wonder why that number was that way. And then
Yeah, exactly.
ends, right? And if you're not tracking them, then you don't know the areas of opportunity for growth.
Right.
You don't see the areas of opportunity where you're actually shining, right? And you're doing
Yes. Yeah.
well. So it's not as scary as we make it in our head, which is how most
Exactly. Yeah, which is why start with your bookkeeping, start getting your numbers together, and then make time to look at your reports. Like don't just do the numbers or if you have a bookkeeper that's giving you reports, like don't just put them to the side. Like actually take some time to look at them, even if it's 5, 10 minutes, and really ask those questions, like what happened here? What was going on? Why does this expense look that way? And like you said, you're going to start feeling more empowered because you're going to understand more about why the numbers look that way and how, you made that decision and then now it's showing up in your numbers like this. You'll be able to connect the two a lot more. And it is a very empowering thing. And that's what we
Yeah.
see a lot of times with our clients. Hmm.
Yeah. The interesting thing for me, like as I've started to really dig into, revenue reporting every single month and looking at it and actually sharing it with people in the group and we all talk
Yeah.
about it, is I'm in a season right now where my mother-in-law, we're caring full time for my mother-in-law. She has stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Mm.
And so my business has shifted. I haven't really been spending a lot of time on growing the business and getting new
Yeah.
clients. Been taking care of my current clients, still podcasting and things like that. But when I did the revenue reporting last month, of course it was lower. It
Yeah.
was like my lowest month in 3 years.
Hmm.
And I really took some time to think through it. And I thought, but I'm not bothered by it because I know that when I'm ready to turn that faucet back on and start
Hmm.
bringing in revenue, I have all these months that I've been reporting to show that it's possible, to show that I can
Right.
go back and what did I do that month to generate those leads and to generate that income and that revenue. And it was just in a season where I need to be where I'm at right now, taking care
Hmm.
of life when life happens and taking care of family, which is why we get into entrepreneurship in the first place, is
Yeah.
to have that flexibility, right? But
Right.
being so empowered in my numbers and realizing that whenever this season is over and I'm able to get back to my work, in that way, I know how to do it because I have all this
Right.
proof and I have all this evidence, right,
Yes.
of the
Yeah.
income and the revenue that I have generated before. So that's the blessing that we don't talk about. We always talk about the complexity of the numbers and
Yeah.
all the things, but it really is so empowering. So if you're listening to this and you're listening to us and you're feeling that nudge, or this is something you've had on the back burner as an entrepreneur and you've been excusing it away because you're like, I just don't understand it, or it's going to be hard, listen to what we're saying and
Hmm.
either delegate, like you said, like get someone involved to help support, or just take some time, even if it's just a little bit every day, to start working
Yeah.
on your bookkeeping and getting those numbers in order. You will feel so much better because it's on your mind.
Right.
It's on your mind. You're a CEO. It's on your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more you lean into it, the more confident you're going to be with decision making. And even when it is to pull back, sometimes that is the case. I know for me, I had a similar, time period with that when I had my babies back to back. It was like I couldn't work as much, but and I took a little bit of a pay cut, but I got all this flexibility from it, and that's priceless. And that's why we have businesses, is to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And the two, on just kind of going back to the emotional part, when you lean into your numbers, that becomes data and it kind of takes the emotion out of it. Because sometimes it's hard to make decisions that maybe are hard or tough because you're emotionally involved, but you can kind of tie it back to it just being data. So now it's a data point. It doesn't have any emotion to it. It's just a fact, and then that can help you as a business owner. I think, especially for some of us, very heartfelt, entrepreneurs that are wanting to make an impact, like those decisions don't need to be emotional. They're more data driven, and that
Yeah.
is very empowering as well. It kind of gives you permission to, like, make the decision without it having to be tied back to
Yeah.
some kind of strong emotion, so then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like, it's a
Yeah.
data point. This is what my business needs, and that has definitely helped me as well, as
Yeah.
a business owner. So,
And I think that's a really great question or a statement is, what does my business need? And when you're
hmm
looking at your numbers, it's like you said, is black and white. It
yeah,
tells you and can show you what your business needs. And sometimes we do
right,
have to remove, as emotional beings that we are, the emotional side of it and just say, okay, from a business standpoint, this is a business decision, especially when you're talking about team members maybe and
yes,
hiring, and maybe there's someone that you need to let go and there's all the emotions wrapped up in it, but if they're
right,
not an asset to the business,
hmm
then they're taking away from the business, right, and they're
yeah,
costing you money in the business. So I think it's a really valid point, a really great question to ask. What does my business need today? Not just what do
yes,
you need as the business owner, but what does your business need?
right,
How can you feed the business today?
yeah,
So what advice would you have for the mompreneurs that are listening with balancing, because you've done a lot of that with all the different changes in your life and
yeah,
being a mom, just balancing that growth that I know so many are listening want, and the family commitments that they have, whether the
hmm
kids are young or they're older like mine, they're your
yeah,
kids. They're not going anywhere. You have
right.
responsibilities no matter what. So what have you found helpful for you in helping to kind of, I like to use the word harmony versus balance because I think balance is a trap, but
Yes.
you know what I'm saying when I say that. Yeah. What have you found
Yeah.
helpful for you?
Well, the first thing is to give myself grace.
Yeah.
So kind of going back to like that perfectionism, but I think also just kind of like, we have like cultural demands or expectations or, like viewpoints. And I'm trying to remember who it was that I had heard somebody speak, and she was like a high person, entrepreneur, new, very well known. I can't think of who it was, but anyways, I just remember her talking about how she has a housekeeper and, somebody that helps run her kids around. And she was just very transparent about, like, she has this big empire, of business, but she doesn't do it alone,
Yeah.
And so I think you're not always there. I wasn't always there. And still am not in some capacity. Like, my goal is to get like a housekeeper, but it's not quite there yet. So like
Yeah.
in the meantime, I have to give myself grace when certain things kind of pile up, like the dishes,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I didn't get to that today because I had a focus over here. So just giving yourself a lot of grace that maybe you're not meeting your expectations, or you're not where where you thought you were going to be, but you're where you're meant to be right now.
Mm,
And I agree with the balancing thing. I always tell people it's really not balance. I don't think there's anything such, so there's
yeah.
no such thing as balance. I like to say that it's a shifting of priorities. So
Yeah.
one day my priority might be, my kids and their sports thing. Another day it might be my house. Another day it might be, my business. And so every day it's got to be a shifting of priorities. And sometimes I thought something was going to be a priority, and then it ends up not being because
Yeah.
the kid got sick, or, the car broke down, or whatever, whatever it might be. So just like realizing that too, is that there's no such thing as balance, this unachievable standard that we think we need to achieve, just it doesn't exist. And I liked what you said about the cape, those superheroes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You
being
try to
super
be
exhausted.
superwoman, you become a super worn
Yes,
out woman. That's from
yeah, that exactly.
Lisa Turker said that, and
Okay,
I've
yeah,
totally
that's great.
grabbed onto that, and it's so true.
It is,
So
yes.
true. And, I think we wear, and my people that are listening are like, here she goes, she's going to get on her soapbox. But, we wear busy as a badge of honor, a lot of us. Busy, I'm
Yes.
busy, I'm so busy.
Hmm.
And busy is a disease. And
It is, yeah.
it's no way to live. It's no way
Right.
to, yes, you can be high achieving, but,
Hmm.
are you busy with the things that really matter?
Right.
Are you busy knowing your numbers? That matters. Are you
Yeah.
busy spending time with your kids? That matters. Like really
Hmm.
prioritizing, because the world and the culture will tell you that everything is a priority. And if everything is a priority, then
Yeah.
nothing really is.
Right.
So we have to slow down as entrepreneurs and as moms and really get clear on what you're saying. Like what is
Yeah.
priority today? What does my business need today? What do I need today?
Right.
You are your greatest asset to your family and your business. So what are you doing
Yeah.
for yourself each day to
Hmm.
kind of put your own oxygen mask on? So I could
Yeah.
spend the whole hour
Yeah.
talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sure
that
you
would probably be my final, advice too, is like really take care of yourself, and that's something that I've had to learn over the last few years. Even so it's relatively new understanding of how important that really is.
Mhm.
Because if I'm not good, then my patience is lower with my kids. I don't have the capacity to lead my team. I don't have the brain power
Mhm.
to develop, the business, and to talk to, new people and do business development and all those things. So like, having taken care of myself, like you said, putting my oxygen mask on first
Mhm.
is really, really important. It's
Yeah.
almost like more important than almost anything else, because like I said, if you're not doing that part, you're
Mhm.
not going to be able to do all the other parts, and eventually you're going to wear yourself out. I know last year I ended up I ended up being hospitalized because I had a gallstone, and, was unexpectedly in the hospital for 4 days. And I had to rush and, try and get people
Yeah.
to watch my kids and, cover the business and all that kind of stuff. So like taking care of yourself is so important, because if you don't, eventually it's going to catch up with you. And,
Yeah.
then the question becomes like, are you even prepared for that? Or like, then what happens at that point? And you don't want to do that. You don't want to put your business at risk. You don't want to, do something, neglect your kids, or like, whatever. Like, you got to take care of yourself in order
Yeah.
to be able to take care of anybody else. So those would definitely be the recommendations I would have, because you're always going to be pulled in different directions, but you got to
Yeah.
be able to learn, how to manage your stress, how to take care of yourself, and how to keep pushing forward. So giving yourself grace, realizing it's not a balance,
Yeah.
and taking care of yourself are definitely some of the big things that have helped me in my journey.
Yeah. I love that. And it's a conversation that we'll keep bringing to the podcast, as long as the podcast is in existence, because it's still such an epidemic. Burnout is still such an epidemic among mom entrepreneurs,
Yeah,
and it's such a accepted pace. And just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. And
right.
so that's kind of been my mission really since I started this podcast, was to help women to have a sustainable business that
Yeah.
they love, that it's not consuming them and
Hmm.
consuming them to the point of burnout, because then that's really not the goal for you. That's not why you got into the
Right.
business.
Right.
But it's definitely a conversation to keep having and keep. I love that when I ask every guest, they kind of say some of the same things. Like
Yeah.
it's like maybe if they've heard it from me 10 times, kind of like my kids, but when they hear it from someone else, it's like, oh, that's the best idea since sliced bread.
Right.
And I'm like, I've been saying this for 5 years or 4
Right.
years here on the podcast. I'm hoping that those that are listening that have heard me say it over and over again and guess, maybe it'll click today, just how important it is to take care of yourself. So do you have any like favorite apps that you use for your finances, or is there any any apps or any type of tech stuff that you love that you use that you can't live without for your business?
That's a great question. I mean, we use Slack for inter office communication, and I really like that. That's really helpful. Having a project management system is also really good. We use Podio, which is kind of a unique, but like anything works, Monday, Asana, like just having some kind of organization, especially if you have team members and not just employees, but contractors too, anybody that you're working with to help advance your business. Those are really important. Otherwise, Profit First has an app, so that if that is something that you're interested in utilizing with the system, they have a pretty cool app now, and they're continuing to develop it. And then we use QuickBooks, which is nice because you can do mileage tracking and then receipt tracking and all of that good stuff. And they've got some new AI stuff being implemented within their system too, so they're really rounding it out. So that's a great, system as well. But those would probably be my recommendations. Receipt management is really important. A lot of people skip over that, but if you get audited, you need to show receipts. Yeah, right. It's a common, challenge for most people. So just kind of having some kind of a system can be really helpful, even if it's like a Google Doc or a folder in your email or something, like that. Just to keep those organized and together is important when we talk about money and all the things you need to have as a business owner. So,
well, and your bookkeeper will love you. Like my bookkeeper's like, Martine, receipts.
Yes.
I'm like, I know I have them. She's like, well, where are they? I'm like, they're stacked up here on my desk. She's like, I need those.
Yes.
So I love that. And I'm going to check out the Profit First app. Do you have to go through like a certified professional to use it, or can anyone use it? Do you know?
I think anybody can use it, but if you're not finding it, let me know and I'll hook you up.
Okay. I love that. I read I think it was last year, I read Donald Miller's, I love him anyway, but he, what was it? Something small business, grow your small business, but he talks about Profit First and Mike in the book.
Okay.
Like he kind of goes through the same system, but he totally gave it's Mike, right? And the guy that,
Mike McCallum.
Gave him all the credit for the system and all the things.
Okay, cool.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a really great system. And like what I really love about it is it really leans into like normal behavior, like it's behavior based. And so like most people, they look at their bank account to make decisions off of. And so we're just leveraging that same habit. It's just now instead of one bank account, we're bucketing it out.
Yeah.
So then you can do that. Most people do that. It's called bank balance accounting is the unofficial term. But like 75 plus, business owners do that. And then just, it's reward based because you get to do quarterly, bonuses for yourself with the profit. And so that kind of helps reinforce the behavior. So it's a really great system, I think, for most people and just kind of how we operate as humans, which is cool.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and talking about all the things that a lot of us like to avoid talking about.
Yes.
So fun and interesting.
Lean into it.
Tell everyone where they can connect with you if they want to learn more about your services.
So I'm on all the socials for the most part, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Otherwise, all of those are linked on our link tree, which you can go to chatwithmeg.com. And that takes you to our link tree. And then that has some of the other things that we're doing, events and programs and things like that. So
perfect. We'll put links to everything and how y'all can connect with her in the show notes. But thanks again, Megan, for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a fun conversation.
Yes, it was. All right, friends, I'll catch you on the next episode. Well, that's a wrap, friends. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I really hope it met you right where you are and gave you some encouragement for your day. Could you do me the biggest favor and leave me a rating and review? Seriously, it's the best way for you to support the show. And while you're there, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Thanks again. And until next time, I am believing in you always.